In the early hours of April the 16th, 1947, a cataclysmic event unfolded in the heart of Texas, an event that forever etched a somber chapter in American industrial history. The Texas City disaster, a deadly combination of fire and explosions, which ripped through the port city, leaving devastation in its wake. But what could cause such an unthinkable disaster? The answer may shock you, so join me as we uncover the story of the Texas City disaster. I'm your host, Ryan Socash, and you're watching It's History. This video is brought to you by Delete Me. Now, I need to warn everyone that our story today is not for the faint of heart. It's a chilling tale of just how dangerous the world can be when the public is unaware of secret dangers brewing out of sight. And to be perfectly honest, we are now faced with new risks in the digital age. As technology has advanced, your personal information is in danger, especially if it falls into the hands of entities like data brokers. They gather individuals' data from multiple sources and sell it for profit. A complete and detailed profile is established, and it's out of your control, putting you at risk for identity theft or phishing scams. But thanks to our sponsor, Delete Me, you can stop worrying about those troubles. Delete Me is a fantastic service that will erase your personal data from people search websites. Vital information like addresses, old photos, or phone numbers can all be eliminated. Additionally, thanks to their automated monitoring system, Delete Me ensures that records won't repopulate after being deleted. It's simply fantastic. Since starting my own online journey, I've witnessed numerous cases of colleagues affected by a lack in privacy. Not to mention the things you said 10 years ago can now be maliciously used against you. Not to mention cases of phishing scams that have caused them significant financial loss. The risks are real, so it's crucial that we all take action to protect ourselves. So get 20% off Delete Me US consumer plans when you go to joindeleteme.com/Socash and use the promo code Socash at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/Socash, code Socash. Texas City, located on the Gulf Coast of Texas, was a bustling industrial hub by the mid-20th century. Founded in the late 19th century, the city grew rapidly due to its strategic location and the establishment of various industrial plants and refineries. By the 1940s, Texas was a vital cog in America's industrial machine, playing a significant role in the production and shipment of petrochemicals, particularly in support of World War II efforts. With that in mind, the SS Grandcamp, a French-owned vessel, arrived in Texas City in early April of 1947. Although foreign-owned, the SS Grandcamp was not entirely unfamiliar with American waters, as she was a former Liberty ship, originally named SS Benjamin, constructed during World War II to support the Allied war effort. Post-war, it was sold to the French government and utilized to transport goods essential for Europe's reconstruction, reflecting an era of international cooperation. With that in mind, the Grandcamp docked in Texas City to load ammonium nitrate, intended for use as fertilizer in the recovering agricultural sectors of war-torn Europe. With approximately 2,300 tons of the substance on board, the ship's cargo was sensitive, to say the least. You see, this substance, while stable under normal conditions, can become highly explosive under certain circumstances. To make matters worse, the Grandcamp was one of several ships in port with dangerous substances on board. For example, there was also the SS Highflyer, which carried many hazardous materials. Now, considering that context, what happens next is truly baffling. On the morning of April the 16th, workers noticed smoke emanating from the SS Grandcamp's hold. Despite efforts to extinguish the fire by smothering it, it quickly intensified. Unbeknownst to the dock workers and the residents of Texas City, the conditions for a catastrophic explosion were aligning. The heat and pressure inside the ship's hold were reaching critical levels, setting the stage for an unprecedented disaster. As the flames danced ominously, the fate of Texas City hung in a precarious balance, with an impending catastrophe lurking just beneath the surface. And so it was. The stage was set for one of the deadliest industrial accidents in American history, and the clock was ticking down to a moment that would forever alter the course of the city's future. April the 16th, 1947 was a seemingly ordinary Wednesday in the bustling port city. However, trouble began aboard the SS Grandcamp, which was docked at Pier D. The ship was nearing the completion of loading its dangerous cargo when, around 8 a.m., smoke began billowing from the hold. Now, initially, the captain ordered the crew to smother that fire by closing all ventilation access, but in a crucial error, opting against the use of fire hoses or sprinklers as he feared damaging the cargo with water. Hence, as the morning wore on, the fire raged, unchecked, steadily heating the chemicals on board. By 9:12 a.m., the temperature inside the hold reached a critical point, and disaster struck. A massive detonation rippled through the ship, shattering both the vessel as well as the mooring. The force was unimaginable, to the point that buildings within a 2,000-foot radius were obliterated, while the port itself suffered extensive damage. Then, the blast triggered a chain reaction of unimaginable horror. A 15-foot tsunami surged towards the shore, sweeping away structures and lives. Shockwaves rippled outwards, leveling nearly 1,000 more buildings across the city. But that's not the end. It gets worse. The Monsanto chemical plant, located near the docks, took a direct hit, claiming the lives of 145 workers in an instant. Fire erupted across the waterfront, ignited by flying debris and burning bales of twine from the Grandcamp's cargo. The city's refineries, crucial to its economic lifeblood, were also engulfed in flames. Smoke filled the air. Witnesses recall it blotting out the sun, turning the day into an unnatural twilight. Amidst this chaos, screams and cries for help pierced the thick smoke. The immediate aftermath was a scene of utter devastation, with rescue efforts hampered by the ongoing fires and the sheer scale of destruction. But once search and rescue finally took hold, the hospitals overflowed with the injured. Some of the deaths and damage in Texas City were due to the destruction and subsequent burning of several chemical plants, oil storage, and other facilities near the explosion. 27 of the 28 members of Texas City's Volunteer Fire Department and 3 of 4 members of the Texas City Heights Volunteer Fire Department heroically lost their lives as they were battling the flames down by the docks. One firefighter, Fred Dowdy, who had not responded to the initial call, coordinated other firefighters arriving from communities up to 60 miles away. Alvin Fussell, the sole survivor of the Heights volunteer firefighters, was driving to work when he heard the call on the radio. Eventually, 200 firefighters arrived from as far away as Los Angeles. Fires resulting from the catastrophic event were still burning a week after the disaster, and the process of body recovery took nearly a month. All 4 fire engines of Texas City were twisted into burned husks. Over 5,000 people were injured in the end, with 1,784 of them admitted to 21 area hospitals. Over 5,000 homes were destroyed and hundreds damaged, leaving 2,000 people homeless. The seaport was destroyed and many businesses were flattened or burned. Additionally, over 1,100 vehicles were damaged and 362 freight cars were obliterated. The property damage was estimated at $100 million. However, this number may not encompass the full scope of damage since a further $500 million of oil products burned. The disaster's impact wasn't confined to physical destruction. The city's spirit was broken. Homes were gone, families torn apart, and livelihoods vanished instantly. Naturally, fear and grief gripped the survivors, unsure of what the future held. The once bustling port was now a desolate wasteland. So in the wake of the disaster, questions arose. Primarily, people were asking, how could such a tragedy even have been allowed to happen? The investigation into the Texas City disaster revealed a domino effect of failures that culminated in the horrific explosion. The cause of the initial fire on board Grandcamp was never determined. However, one theory is that a discarded cigarette may have started the blaze the previous day, meaning the ship's cargo had been smoldering through the night when the fire was discovered the next morning. Historian Hugh Stevens later identified human error as the cause and cites numerous reasons why a minor fire became such a severe incident. Hence, the initial fire on board the Grandcamp was undoubtedly the catalyst but the disaster stemmed from a deeper disregard for safety protocols. The sensitive cargo storage and handling didn't adhere to proper regulations, which were generally lax at the time. The crew's decision to avoid water to extinguish the flames further exacerbated the situation, as water is crucial for controlling fires involving this volatile material. But beyond the immediate events on the ship, the entire port lacked essential safety measures. Firewalls designed to prevent fires from spreading were absent, and designated storage areas for hazardous materials were inadequate. These shortcomings exposed a critical breakdown in communication between the Coast Guard, the Port Authority, and the ship's crew. In other words, this lack of coordination likely played a crucial role in escalating the situation, preventing a potentially controlled response to that initial fire. It was the perfect storm. The disaster received national media attention, with offers of assistance coming from around the country. Several funds were established to handle donations, particularly the Texas City Relief Fund, created by the city's mayor. Oddly, one of the largest fundraising efforts was organized by Sam Maceo, one of two brothers who ran the organized crime in the region at the time. Maceo organized a large-scale benefit on the island, featuring entertainers including Phil Harris, Frank Sinatra, and Ann Sheridan. Ultimately, the Texas City Relief Fund raised over $1 million, with payouts for fire insurance claims reaching nearly $4 million. Within days of the disaster, major companies that had lost their facilities announced plans to rebuild in Texas City, and in some cases, expand their operations. Some companies implemented policies of retaining all hourly employees who had previously worked at their destroyed facilities, with plans to use them in rebuilding. The cost of industrial reconstruction was estimated at approximately $100 million, or $1.36 billion when adjusted for inflation. In the aftermath of this disaster, a wave of reform swept through the maritime industry. Stricter regulations were established, dictating specific packing requirements and temperature control measures. The overall safety standard within ports also underwent significant overhaul. Fire prevention became a top priority, with firewalls becoming mandatory and designated storage areas for hazardous materials implemented. Additionally, oversight by agencies like the Coast Guard was significantly increased, with stricter inspections and rigorous enforcement of safety regulations becoming the norm. The Texas City disaster serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences that can arise from neglecting safety protocols. But beyond the regulatory framework this disaster left behind, there is still some physical evidence. You just need to know where to look. While most of the physical destruction from the explosion have been cleared away as the city was rebuilt, there are a few physical reminders around Texas City. The Grandcamp's anchor, a massive 1.5-ton piece of metal, was hurled over 2 miles by the blast and now rests as a memorial in Texas City's Memorial Park. Additionally, the park itself was built upon the site of a small cemetery where unidentified victims of the disaster were initially buried. And so, the most significant remains of the disaster are the memorials dedicated to those who lost their lives. The aforementioned Memorial Park serves as a place of remembrance and reflection. Finally, the Texas City Disaster Museum is a permanent reminder of the tragedy, educating visitors about the event and the aftermath. Special thanks to our viewer who submitted this episode. If you have a story you'd like us to cover, please email me some bullet points and maybe a few pictures for context. Otherwise, you can support the channel by clicking both subscribe and join. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, this is Ryan Socash, signing off.